Hello, and welcome to another episode of Automate to Dominate. I'm Jim Slowick, the CEO and founder of Emergent IT. We specialize on the show by bringing industry leaders together to just really help formulate ideas and think about AI in such a way that's really going to help them get their business out there, but also more importantly, bringing people together to talk about innovative ways that can really help generate revenue, automate tasks, reduce costs, and optimize efficiencies. We've got a great presenter today. I'm excited about this. We had a pre-podcast show just to kind of clarify for everybody. He gave me some really great tidbits that I don't really know a whole lot about the industry. So this is going to be informative for me as well. But I'd like to introduce Sharif Bennett. He is the Chief Business Officer for Cineblock. And thank you for being on the show, Sharif. This is going to be exciting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people interested in hearing what you're doing specifically in your field to help bring filmmaking and investors together, right? To make this a powerhouse opportunity for people that are looking to get their content out there, develop films, and finding the right investment strategy to help them put that together, right?
Awesome.
So,
Yes.
yeah, no further ado. I'll let you take the mic and explain a little bit about yourself, and we can go right into it.
Awesome. Well, Jim, first and foremost, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. As you stated, my name is Sharif Bennett, Chief Business Officer of Cineblock. A little bit about me, originally from Rockland County, New York, so right north of New York City. Diehard Yankees fan, and right
That's
now
great.
Knicks fan, which is something I never thought I'd be saying in about the
Mixed
years that I've
fever.
been on this planet. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
something.
real.
It's really captivating the city right now. So it's awesome to be here. Yeah. So as far as my role as Chief Business Officer, what I do is I am responsible for evangelizing the platform of Cineblock. So I'll travel to film festivals. I'll go to any type of speaking engagements. I attend podcasts. I'll go to tech events. And it's really about me sort of spreading the word about what our platform is, what it does, and how it differs from some of the other competitors out there. Additionally, I deal directly with customers. I come from a tech sales background. I was in that field for a number of years. And so what I also do basically handle the sales cycle for potential clients and then really onboard them onto the Cineblock platform, convey to them the things it is that we need, manage the operations on a daily basis about their campaigns, which just means oftentimes getting the materials together in order to have the best campaign possible, making sure that they're on our website, et cetera, and essentially helping them navigate through the world of regulation crowdfunding and Cineblock as a whole, because it's something that I don't think most filmmakers are yet accustomed to.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. You mentioned on our previous call that there's some pretty cool things you guys are doing that's a little bit unique, right? You've got various amount of sourcing platforms out there. It sounds like it's a competitive market, but why don't you just kind of give us a tidbit around what you're doing? And I don't want to steal your thunder. You mentioned
Yeah.
there's a boot camp. There's some really cool things that you're doing that try to help bring people together. But let's go down that path a little bit.
Yeah. So if we really sort of let's take a step back and look at it through the world of a filmmaker, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
So historically speaking, what a filmmaker has done is they've come up with an idea. Maybe they've written a script and they say, man, this is awesome. I have this idea. I then, turn this into actual IP. I've got this movie. Now I need to raise the money in order to get this film made. Well, it's going to cost me maybe, I don't know, $1 million to make this movie. I, as a filmmaker, don't have $1 million. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to my network. I'm going to look for accredited investors or people with a net worth of $1 million or more
Mhm.
and really sort of pitch my case to them about this passion project it is that I have in hopes that they will invest in my project for a return. There are a couple problems with this, Jim.
Okay.
The first problem is that there are a small number of accredited investors out there in the world who are worth $1 million or more. They're not just hanging from trees, okay?
Sure.
Millionaires like that, right?
Yeah.
And
Makes
then
sense.
an even smaller percentage of them have historically invested in movies to begin with. So you're already targeting the top 2% of people. And within that top 2%, you're really looking at 0.005% of them, right? Not
Sure.
a sustainable business model. So what we decided as a company to do was to say, okay, how can we assist this? Oh, I'm sorry, let me add one bit. And what then those filmmakers might often do, or what they had done over the past 10 to 15 years to bring this more into modern day times, is they say, okay, I'm still short X amount of dollars to make my film. Let me now go to a Kickstarter or to a GoFundMe for this bridge gapping. So then they'll create a campaign, they'll ask their friends, their family, they'll tell their friends and family, hey, send this to anyone it is who you know who might be willing to donate to my campaign. right?
Got
And
it.
maybe I'll get, $20,000 from this or $30,000, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
We took a look at all this and said, one, this isn't sustainable. And two, there's better ways to go about this, right? So the first part was the accredited investors, right? The people worth $1 million or more. There aren't many of them, right? So what if we then brought down the cost of this investment and basically fractionalized it in a similar way that sort of Kickstarter does,
Okay.
right? And said,
Hmm.
instead of asking one person for $1 million, what if we asked a couple thousand people for a couple $100? Right? But unlike Kickstarter, GoFundMe, or Seed and Spark, it's not going to be vis-a-vis a donation-based platform. It's going to be actual investment. So people have the opportunity to don't instead of donating now, invest that same $100 or $200 now into an actual film or television series, right? Actual IP in hopes of getting return, right?
Got it.
Now,
Got
what people often say to me is, how do you think this will work? How do you go about even getting investors? Like, how does this even work? What I'd say to them is, if we take a look at Kickstarter, Kickstarter is I think it's probably the premier platform when we think crowdfunding
it.
in
Okay.
the world. Kickstarter jumped off roughly 2009, 2010. So from that period up until 2024, now remember, they're a private company, so they don't have to publicly disclose all their information. But what they
Gotcha.
did release was that up until 2024, they had raised over $600 million for films, and they're not a film and TV platform. So when people ask the question of, is this actually possible? What I'd say is, yeah, it's possible. People are already doing it. In the same way that baseball existed before major leagues formed, people were already in their yards playing stickball in their backyards throughout New York, Massachusetts, Chicago, etc. What MLB came in and did was said, wait, let's formalize this process and create actual teams and leagues and rules. So all we're doing is essentially creating a new league, a new team, right? And saying now we're actually going to change and amend some of what's already in existence.
Mm, very cool. Yeah. Awesome. And it sounds pretty, would you say you're unique in that sense? Would you say,
I would say so because we cross a lot of planes, right? So you'll have crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, Seed and Spark, GoFundMe, amazing platforms. And I don't want to take anything from them,
sure,
right?
sure.
But those
Yep.
are donation based, right?
Got
Kickstarter,
it.
GoFundMe. Those are donation based and they're for anyone and anything. Seed and Spark for film and television specifically is donation based. Then
Okay.
you have like WeFunder, Start Engine. Those are equity crowdfunding platforms, right? Those are awesome, which is what we are. We're equity crowdfunding, but those are, one again, for everything. We are one of the few, if not only, entertainment IP based crowdfunding platforms. So I used earlier the breakdown of what a filmmaker goes through, but our platform applies for all entertainment. Filmmaking is just one use case. So we'll do projects for film, television, we'll do video games, we'll do augmented reality, we'll do sporting events, live events, production houses, anything that falls under the umbrella of entertainment, we can do equity crowdfund raises for. It's just film and television, I think, is the use case that most people can easily grasp and comprehend, right? When
Very cool.
entertainment IP, right? And
Yeah.
everyone loves movies and TVs,
They
right?
do.
And
Yeah.
television. In this world of streaming, especially during COVID, people got accustomed to just coming home and flipping and just watching something. Even if you didn't like TV prior to COVID,
That's right.
I'm sure you watched a lot more of it starting in 2020. And
No
what
doubt.
I'd say is, for the first time now, people not only have the opportunity to watch some of their favorite projects, they'll now have the opportunity to invest in the same projects. That's one of the main differentiators for us from some
Yeah.
crowdfunding platforms out
Man, that's cool. That's really cool. And it's very like, intuitive and creative and all the great things that, the industry probably needs. I'm curious, this is my own morbid curiosity. So if a person invests, what are some ROI type of, scenarios that they can actually see a return on their investment? I'm sure if anyone watches this that is
there. Yeah.
interested in investing, they're going to want
Yeah.
to know, what can I get back, right?
What can I get back? And that's a great question. So there are generally two types of raises that happen. So
Okay.
either one, the filmmaker, we'll go back to the filmmaker use case, right? They're actually going to sell a portion of the IP of their project. So they may give away, 10%, right?
Sure. Mhm.
Or not give away, offer up investment, should I say,
Sure.
for
Yeah. Yep.
10% of their project, just to give you an example. Or what they might say instead is, I want to hold onto my IP. When instead, what I'll do is I'll do what's called a rev gen, a revenue generation split with the audience, which means give me $100, I will give you back $125. And then I will share a percentage of the distribution rights for our projects for, say, 10 years. Now, what does distribution mean? That means where ultimately the project is shown and watched. So distribution could be something like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, or distribution could be if the project is picked up and then shown in theaters, right? And so what that filmmaker has agreed to is to saying, I'm going to hold on to the IP. I'll give you some money back for giving me some money, but the money that you're really going to see, the ROI that you're going to see, is over the course of this 10-year window. And I'm using this as an example, 10% of all distribution rights that I make across every platform, I'm now including an offer for this campaign. So the ROI can really vary, and then take into account too the different types of projects that can come on a platform, right?
Okay.
The
Yep.
ROI on a horror film is vastly different than, say, a documentary film.
Okay.
But if we take a look now, why is that? Because people like cheap horror films, right? And for
It's just
horror
the way
films,
it is.
it's
Yes.
just the way it is, right? They like it cheap and gory a lot of times.
Yeah.
And even if we look at films that had recent success, like Obsession or that movie Back Rooms, those were made very, very small budgets, right? But now have exploded in terms of the amount of money that was made. So picture if you were an early stage investor in one of these projects, right? How
Yep.
much money it is you would have made. So the ROI for a horror film, vastly different than that of, say, a documentary film.
Then a
Then the
documentary.
ROI on a production studio will be vastly different than that of a film.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. That's very good. Like the Blair Witch Project. That probably returned some pretty big money
A lot, yeah. Some people are retired as a
because of
result
that.
of
Yeah.
the Blair Witch, just like I'm sure some people can now retire as a result of Backrooms and Obsession.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool, man. Very cool. Like everything that you're saying just sounds incredibly unique. You know, it's really wild that you guys are doing this. So let me just kind of pivot to AI for a second. You mentioned it on our pre-podcast call. It's the elephant in the room. You're absolutely right. You know, so many companies are looking at how can I use AI to, optimize whatever. Maybe it's revenue, maybe it's processes. And, me being in the field for a while, it just seems like the miss currently is companies like, well, we're going to use ChatGPT or Claude and we're going to, help, build content. Cool. Anyone could do that at any time. It's a pretty easy thing. Where we talked about, which I'd love to kind of break into a little bit here, is if you had an AI wand, we talked about, bringing together investor recommendations. That's cool in itself. But let's talk about some of the creator tools. And you mentioned like analyzing campaign data and
Yep.
things of that nature. So maybe
So,
just kind of go down that path a little bit. And
yeah. So as a platform, there are two stakeholders we always have to think of. On the left-hand side, once again, I'll go back to the filmmaker analogy, the filmmaker, right? Or anyone, sometimes in the industry, it's also referred to as an issuer, anyone who's looking to raise money, right? But
sure.
who's filmmaker? We have to think
Yep.
about them, and then we have to think about the investor themselves, right? It's two parties we gotta fulfill. On the filmmaker side, these films are passion projects, and sometimes it's really difficult to critique or objectively discuss someone's passion project,
No
right?
one wants to hear their baby's ugly, right?
Right. It's a slippery slope at times, right?
Exactly.
What AI data can do is help for filmmakers put it into perspective how much money they should be looking to raise, right?
Sure.
Now, in the
Yep.
world of crowdfunding, and it holds true for crowdfunding or equity crowdfunding, a person's existing community, the people who they can immediately leverage, is intricate and a critical part of what their campaign is going to look like. If someone only has 3 followers on social media and 4 connects or 4 friends, the likelihood that they crowd raise $1 million is very, very minimal. So what AI data can do is do an assessment, or what I think AI data would be able to do is an assessment of that filmmaker. Take a look at, all right, this is the size of the people who follow you in total on social media. So let's take LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, right? And say, all right, you've got this many thousands of followers. Great. Okay, you've got this many amounts of email addresses in your database because maybe you have some existing IP, like a book or another TV show, et cetera,
Sure.
et cetera. Okay, so you've got all these things. And this is the type of film it is that you're looking to make. Once again, the ROI for a horror film differs vastly for a rom-com, right?
Yep.
And then they'll also then take into account money that has been raised on our platform previously by different filmmakers to
Okay.
let them get a sense of, all right, maybe this is an ideal target you should be looking for in order to raise. Yes, it would make sense for you to look to raise 700,000, 3.6 million.
Got
Right?
it.
So that's
Hmm.
where AI could be really beneficial on that side. On the flip side, for the investors, what AI would be good for is to say, okay, based upon we're coming in, you've clicked on almost like an avatar, a digital avatar that comes in and says, okay, based on your profile, based on how much you clicked accredited investor versus non-accredited investor. Great. These are the things that it is you said that you like. You like rom-coms, you like actions. These are films that we're going to curate that we think you might have a likeness for in terms of your
Hmm.
appetite for investment.
Sure.
These are the specific projects, right? And these projects have had these type of returns in the past, right?
Got it.
All
Yep.
for the sake of transparency, information, and communication. And I hate to say this, but some people are doing AI just to do AI because it's this hot, sexy thing. Businesses still need to be customer centric. Putting AI up there just to put AI up there doesn't make your onboarding any better for customers. It doesn't make it necessarily easier or facilitate anything. You're just now implementing AI just to say that you did it. So I look at it through the lens of it always has to be what is best for any potential filmmaker or issuer on our side, as well as any investor. And let's use the AI to make their experience that much better.
You sound like you're an expert in the AI field because it's what we talk about all the time. It's the human element, right? There's still the relationships, it's still the trust factor, it's still the connective tissue, right? That people want to work with someone like I'm looking at you across the screen, right? Like you build a trust and you build a bond and that's really the key. Like you absolutely nailed it is how do we focus on the human element, but then just use AI as a tool to help bring all of that together. And that's really well said. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. What would you say, just kind of off the cuff, what are some of your biggest challenges today and finding the right people, finding the right investors? Is it more of a man, we just got to identify the right personas. I'm just kind of maybe leading you down a path and providing some connectivity there. Or is there some other ideas that you're thinking of that
Yeah.
can ultimately drive you guys some revenue at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest, is the idea of education. As you stated earlier, we're really unique in this sense. Not
Hmm.
many people are doing what we're doing, right? We're literally groundbreaking. And I once again hate to say this about our company.
Sounds like it. Yeah, it's great.
So filmmakers need to understand what it is we do, how it works, and why it's a good idea. And then on the same side, investors need to be made aware that there is now an alternative investment that they can now partake in. Right. I always use the analogy of feudal England. Right. And if we took a time machine back to feudal England, right, and you've got a king who owns all the land, he then bequeaths it to a knight. That knight then goes to people who can grow food and say, hey, come grow food on my land. I'll provide you protection in exchange for some of these goods it is that you produce. Now, you and I now, James, travel back to 1200 Europe. Well, maybe even later. We're going to go after the plague, right?
Okay.
And yeah, that's for sure.
That's good. That's a good start.
And we approach some of these serfs who are on this land and we say to them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Serf, you can own this land. They look at you and say, Sharif Jim, you're crazy.
You're
No.
nuts. Yeah.
And then they break down the whole system because that's all they've ever known. They'd say, no, this is feudalism. This is how this works. So the same has to be understood now when we're dealing with the world of film finance. The
Sure. Yeah.
average investor has never had the opportunity to do something like this. The average filmmaker has never thought, how can I monetarily capitalize and leverage the existing fan base it is that I have in order to do a crowd race? So first and foremost, it's education,
Yep.
right? It's
Yep.
educating the public on we are now a reality. That's the number one
That's really where it's at.
where it's
So,
at.
yeah, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, so really it's getting the education piece out there, right? It's getting the content built, which AI is amazing at, right? All the way to the point where not only are you targeting the right people, those filmmakers or entertainment, genres, you mentioned three or four, to people that are really excited about investing into this, portfolio and bringing the education and content piece to both parties, right? So that they both understand that, hey, I'm an investor. Here's my ROI. If I, go down this path, I'm a filmmaker where maybe I didn't have these avenues of looking at people that, are specific to this industry that are willing to invest. It sounds like a perfect combination if we could just get the education piece out there a little bit.
Yeah, because we hear all sorts of things. Like someone we're doing a campaign for now, even reiterated, he had been, obviously he had been, talking about the platform and posting about it and emailing, his existing community about it. And he says he's literally in the barbershop and someone reaches into their pocket, they're like, oh yeah, we heard about this, and gave him $1,000 and wanted to give him the $1,000. He's like, no, you can't just
Just
give me the money. That's not how this works. You have to go onto this platform. You have to have an existing checking account with a credit card and do the swipe there. Not just from a legal compliance standpoint, but it's for your benefit, because now you can go onto our platform and track your investment in the same way that you would on a Robinhood or on an E-Trade, and see this is where your investment lies. Just don't give me $1,000 here in an alley, right? Because I could just run away with your money and give you nothing,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so once again, it's part of this education component.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So one of the other things we touched on before, which I think would maybe a good thing for your audience, people that are listening to hear, is the regulatory side of that. You were just kind of leading us down that path. So, maybe a few sentences on, from a compliance perspective, making sure that everyone is protected, making sure that they're following the right rules of engagement. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a FINRA, that's the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and SEC, Security Exchange Commission, approved platform, right?
Awesome.
So we're one of the few platforms that has not only gotten FINRA compliance, but has actually created a raise that's out there for public investment, right? So that means we have to adhere to a certain legal compliance standard on our platform. And it took us 2 years to get the certification. It is not easy. It is not
Yeah.
like going to the store and buying some orange juice, folks, right? To become compliant vis-a-vis in the eyes of FINRA and the SEC and become members of their organizations, we had to put in a lot of work. And we did that specifically because we wanted both our filmmakers and investors to feel safe about what it is we are doing, right? So every investor, or excuse me, every filmmaker has to have their LLC reviewed by us. And then we're then going to send it to the SEC to ensure that this is a legally compliant vehicle for people to raise funds. Because once again, we're dealing in the world of securities. So we are
Sure.
highly scrutinized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And thus, our filmmakers, this is all part of the education it is that they have to go through, because most of them have never filed anything with
Yep.
the SEC before,
Yep.
et cetera. So that's part of the onboarding process that we guide them through,
That's
right?
huge. That's a
Unlike,
huge differentiator,
yeah,
right?
unlike
Yeah.
some of the other platforms out there, we will take you through step by step. We will hold your hands because we understand this is something totally different.
And I think you mentioned one of your partners is an attorney that literally reviews these documents and gives advice, and that's all part of your program, right?
That's
So
all part. That's all part of our onboarding fee. You get direct
that's
contact with our lawyer because only a lawyer can file the necessary paperwork with the SEC. If you don't
wow.
have
Yep.
an actual licensed lawyer doing it,
Lawyer
you can't do this.
can't do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So yeah,
Another really compelling differentiator. I mean, just sounds like everything you're doing is so unique to the space that I get imagine it's got to attract a lot of attention to the people watching this. That's pretty awesome.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Anything else, you would like to share, to potential listeners, or, maybe one thing that we can touch on is, around the boot camp. Can you maybe explain a little bit around, that process, like the length of time to go through the boot camp and
Yeah,
things of that nature?
and why there's a boot camp in the first place, right?
Exactly. Yeah, good one.
If you once again, and I'm not trying to speak negatively about any of the other platforms, they basically say to you, hey, we're a platform, raise your money, et cetera, et cetera. What most people don't understand is that platforms do not bring investment. Systems bring investment, right?
Makes sense.
Many filmmakers are out here, and I know that many filmmakers are desperate. They're very much caught up in the world of, I just need to make this film. And some of them, unfortunately, are of this belief that as long as I make this film, like in the movies, make it and people will come. Unfortunately, that's not how this works either.
Exactly.
All right? Just
Yep.
because you've made a project that is close to your heart does not mean that Joe Schmo, who knows nothing about you, is going to invest money into your project.
That's
Right?
right. That's right.
So what we decided was that on top of bringing our lawyer, the lawyer doing the onboarding for the SEC part, we needed to be able to onboard customers so that they would have successful crowd raises. So what does
Mhm.
that really entail? That entails doing an assessment of once again, their existing community, the people that follow them on social media, any email addresses it is that they have, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're going to do from anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 weeks is build momentum up for your campaign. For all filmmakers out there, it's very similar to no one just goes and sees a film, right?
Sure. It just doesn't happen.
A film doesn't just land in a movie theater, right?
Exactly.
There's a thing called a trailer. That
Yep.
trailer then is marketed. There's a 2-month buildup of that film that the trailer helps do to generate that buzz. Our boot camp is the same thing, but instead of just for your film, it's for your campaign. This is
Gotcha.
so that over that 4 to 8 week period, your community, as well as the people and the investors that we've curated, understand, oh my God, this is Jim's project. I've heard him talking about this. Wait, I heard him mention this in an email I got from him the other day. He said this on social media. Okay, all right, wait, all right. Now I see this. Now I'm going to join the wait list for his upcoming campaign. And as soon as it's available, because I think this is a viable project, because I've
Yeah,
seen him speak on it for the past 2 months, now I'm going to invest. In
that's
that
awesome.
4 to 8 week period, lets potential investors get to know who you are, right?
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
tell everyone this platform is almost like an IPO.
Mhm.
A filmmaker's project, that's the stock that's now going public, that's available for investment.
That's a great
And
analogy.
you, the filmmaker, are the CEO.
Mhm.
No one's going to invest in your company if they don't know who you are.
Who you are?
First thing they're going to do is they're going to Google who. Whenever you hear about a company, you're just going to go Google. What does this company do? Who's on the board? Who's the CEO? What have they done? Their track record, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What the boot camp does is allow that filmmaker to build up that air of legitimacy, personalize themselves the community, tell the world who they are, what their project is, and why their project is different from all of the other projects out there.
That's awesome.
Right. So
They're like,
so by the time the campaign opens, the potential investor is already familiar with who you are.
I love it. They've been teased with all the information that makes them feel comfortable and willing to
Exactly.
invest and, all the great things that come with
Exactly.
it.
And we've seen results from it,
Yep. That's
right?
awesome. Yep.
Campaigns coming out and within a week generating $20,000. That
Mhm.
is so unlike the majority of crowdfunding campaigns that get out there.
Yeah,
I
that's
offer
that's
anyone,
awesome.
if you don't have a name and you don't have a brand and you just think that you're going to get on GoFundMe or except without a story of some sort, your campaign is going to fail.
I was gonna say it almost sounds impossible at that point, right?
It's very, very
Not
difficult.
to try to discourage anybody looking to do that, but
Right.
it sounds like it'd be
So we
very
realized
difficult.
this is what we had to do. It's for the benefit of everyone. The filmmaker, the company, potential investors, etc. And once
Yeah,
again, none of the other crowdfunding platforms do
do
what
that.
it is we do.
I love it, man. Very, very specialized. Well, hey, listen, this has been awesome. Hopefully everyone watching can see the real uniqueness that you have. And one, may be interested in investing, or two, for the potential filmmakers out there, or, all the other avenues that you guys do, could really start to get excited around the fact that they have a really great potential funding source through your platform. Be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
fantastic. Well, listen, Sharif, thank you for your time. This was very informational and very exciting. Like I'm just listening to you, kind of like, man, this is different, man. It's compelling. It's very cool.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here. I thank you so much for your time and your platform. For anyone out there, please, if you have questions, come visit us on cineblockfilms.com.
There you go. Nice one.
Okay.
Cool logo. Yeah.
Follow me on LinkedIn. We're always providing updates about new campaigns. Sign up for us on social media because we're really trying to do something different here.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll drop all your links in there. I'll drop your website to the cast and your socials if you want, and give people an easy access to you as well.
Awesome. I thank you, sir.